Hello guys, I hope wherever you're watching us from, you're having a great time. This is AfriPost and welcome to today's video. Now, over the past few weeks, I've been bringing to you some educative videos about what African Americans and blacks in the African continent went through in the hands of the white man. And these things have really attracted a lot of discussions from different quarters. And this has really been a good interaction, and I appreciate each and every support that all of you have been giving me. And in today's video, I came across one of the most interesting clips here on TikTok. It is a clip where a certain white man decided to conduct a social experiment within a community in America that is considered to be highly racist. So he was holding the Black Lives Matter banner and standing and listening to the comments that people were giving him. Now, before I say anything, let's watch this video and then come back later.
Harrison, Arkansas is the most racist town in the United States.
You dumb shit.
Are you a Marxist?
Communist. Domestic terrorist.
Why don't you take it to Chicago or New York and hold it up for the shooting center?
Explain to me why coons like that.
No, they don't. Do a real fucking job. I'm Jesus.
Get your ass out of town. That shit don't make shit here.
Hey, all lives matter, not just black. You're Caucasian.
You're white.
You look like a white guy holding a black lives matter sign. What's the deal with that?
I'd be ashamed to be a white boy carrying that stupid sign.
You're white, aren't you? Oh, boy. Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm good, how are you?
Good. Hey, you saying something, dude?
Yes, sir.
I am good.
Because I'm tired of seeing this right here is the biggest hoax there ever was.
It's just the next thing to ask.
It is.
Yeah, black lives do matter, but what about ours, man?
Apparently black people's lives matter more than us.
Apparently.
You know, the Irish have
The niggers gonna kill you too. Black lives don't matter with the fuck.
Hey Mike, how's your day going? Walmart, they put out this statement.
I would ask you to leave. Exactly what I'm saying is exactly what they would ask me to do.
Now, the reason why I played that clip is because of the fact that one of the viewers of my channel told me that there is no systemic racism in America, and this is something that should not be discussed. And I decided to really bring this in a response to ensure that he as a person also gets to see what happens in America. And to give him a better understanding, let's watch this, then react to it at the end.
So this is for educational purposes only. The question says, why do black people hate white people so much? It goes both ways. Let's talk about it. Let me tell you why it doesn't work both ways. Never has there been a time in the United States in which black people had structural power and the ability to weaponize that power to discriminate and hate against white people. However, there was a period of time, a long period of time in the United States in which white people hated black people for nothing other than their race and had the power to do something about it. White pride is rooted in white supremacy and was birthed out of a place of exerting power and control over other demographics of people. Black pride, on the other hand, was rooted in surviving oppression. Black pride was the conscious, collective effort of a community to stop the erasure of culture and history. Any hatred, vitriol, and distrust by black people for white people is a natural byproduct of years of systemic oppression in the United States. The pathway forward to building that bridge and regaining that trust is for white people to not only acknowledge the egregious acts that the United States government committed against black Americans, not only acknowledge the wrongdoing of our ancestors. Most white people have done that part. They're starting to acknowledge history, but it stops there. They will say, that's a long time ago, this is now. The problem is today, white people are still feigning ignorance and they're not actively working to stand in solidarity and dismantle the tools of oppression that are still in place today. Most white people, particularly white people on the right, will tell you that systemic racism does not exist today. In spite of the mounting evidence and data, Right now, in our country, there is this yearning for this kumbaya, can't we all just get along? The problem with that line of thinking is that it's very superficial, it's surface level. In a perfect world, we just say, stop the hate, end racism, everybody get along, and voila, everything will be back to normal. The reason why that never works is because there is something much larger and nefarious at play that profits off of our division. Till we, and when I say we, I mean particularly white people, because black people have been screaming this for years, until we address the institutions and systems that are perpetuating this racism, we will never affect change. You know, there was a time when I used to hear black people say, screw them saltines, I'll say it mildly, but I used to get so mad until I understood the root cause of black pain and black anger in this country. It wasn't until I got educated, I deconstructed and re-educated myself, that my whole worldview and perspective changed. I will never say any form of hatred or bigotry is okay. But if I see hatred coming from a marginalized community, from a group of people that have historically been oppressed, I will try to understand and empathize where that hatred is coming from and do the work to do what I can to de-escalate and defuse that hatred and turn it into love. But that takes a whole lot of work in earning trust, and I don't know what length people who look like me are willing to go.
Let me guess. You'd be on the front lines fighting against racism if someone could just point to one blatantly racist law. But then when people do point you to ways in which black folks continue to face oppression in this country, or they show you how white supremacy culture shows up deep within the fabric of our minds and legislation in this country, how do you respond? Are you defensive? Do you deny those realities? Do you maybe cite a statistic to show how white men are prevented from being pilots? Let's be very clear. You have absolutely heard people talk about systemic racism in this country. The problem isn't that you haven't heard it. It's that you don't believe them. And you don't believe them because not only have we as white-bodied individuals never experienced racism, but we've also been conditioned to disbelieve black people. And what you're doing is right in line with your conditioning. Let's just be honest about that. Because the first part of your journey of healing from racism within you has to start with being honest with yourself. And we most definitely can't have a conversation about data or interpretation of that data until that happens.
All right. You know how systemic racism doesn't exist, right? Do you all remember when Mike Pence said that systemic racism doesn't exist? Obviously, he was onto something. Now I have some evidence. A statistical analysis was conducted of the United States' largest credit union. In this statistical analysis, one of the key findings here is a deeper statistical analysis performed by CNN found that black applicants to Navy Federal were more than twice as likely to be denied as white applicants, even when more than a dozen different variables, including income, debt-to-income ratio, property value, down payment percentage, and neighborhood characteristics were the same. Systemic racism doesn't exist, huh? I mean, what more do you need? What that was saying is that the only variable between those applicants, they kept all these variables consistent except for their race. If you were black and applying for some sort of loan to the largest credit union in the United States, you were twice as likely to be denied that loan to your white counterpart who has an almost identical life, neighborhood, mortgage, income, solely because you were black. That is what denied the application. But systemic racism doesn't exist. I think Mike Pence was a prime example of why you should stay in school and believe in science.
From the clips that we've watched, I think it is evident that systemic racism exists in America because even those white people admit it. You know, some people, when we try talking about these issues, they feel like we are being racist or we want to kind of pass a message that plants seeds of disunity within the society. I also did my research and also tried to look into the government records, whether they really have somewhere that they can prove that this racial discrimination and issues surrounding racial discrimination exist. And I really was happy to find some informative content that I want to read for you here. Now, this is from the US Department of the Treasury, and it is a blog that was written by Counselor for Racial Equity called Janice Bowdler and Assistant Secretary for Economic Policy Benjamin Harris. They were talking about racial inequality in the United States, and there are certain important issues that I wanted us to highlight in this video. Now, on the onset, they write that while the discussions of racial inequality in the United States is often focused on economic inequality, racial inequality also manifests itself in a multitude of ways that alone and altogether impact the well-being of all Americans. These include racial disparity in wealth, education, employment, housing, mobility, health, rates of incarceration, and many more. And they also went ahead to look at the origin and persistence of racial inequality in the United States. And some of the things that they highlight here is the fact that racial inequality is rooted in long-standing behaviors, beliefs, and public policies that result in appropriation of physical, financial, labor, and other resources of non-white people. So these are some of the things that really make racial discrimination and racial inequality existent within the United States. So systemic racism is something that has been supported by policies that successive governments have failed to really look at in a better way. Another thing that they say here is that while the most targeted racist laws and policies have been repealed or otherwise abandoned, subsequent policies and even enforcement of equal protections in individuals harmed by de jure and de facto discriminations has resulted in vastly limited opportunities and stark inequalities between white and non-white Americans that have continued to this day. They are saying here that, for example, maps drawn by the Homeowners Loan Corporation, a now defunct federal agency, to portray the relative riskiness of lending across neighborhoods in the 1930s were used by banks to deny access to credit to residents of the lowest rated neighborhoods, who were often racial and ethnic minorities. Moreover, this conduct depressed home ownership rates, house values and rents, and increased racial segregation in low-rated neighborhoods in subsequent decades. So if you look there are certain laws that were created specifically to limit minority groups within the United States from accessing important services. For instance, here is home ownership. Those who are considered to be coming from areas and neighborhoods that were rated low in terms of their credit worthiness and everything, they were not allowed to have mortgage in a better way. So these are things that already exist in the United States, and therefore when certain times we come out to really talk about them, it is not like we don't want to really have a better society, but our main aim is to ensure that we continue speaking, highlighting the negative things that whites are continuing to do towards blacks, and have a society that is equal for us all, because all we fight for and all we want is equity. Whether we are black, whether we are white, all of us are one people, and we must fight against every vice that is limiting our progress and growth within our societies. Give me your opinion about the topic that we discussed today down in the comment section. And if you're watching us for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and also share. Also remember, for every minute you take watching our videos, we highly appreciate your participation and really say thank you, and thank you once again. Goodbye.